Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How you guys doing this evening? Oh man, 3 weeks in a row. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But I'm back on here again, bringing you guys nothing but good real estate information. I'm hoping to add value to your lives. Whatever you guys want to know, I want to be able to help you guys get the answers to it. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please feel free to drop them right here. Boom, in the chat. Um, so it has been a really good week. I know I was promoting the Ales and Assets real estate meetup, which took place yesterday. It was phenomenal. A lot of new faces out there. Just a really good vibe. So if you guys missed it or you're watching this replay, we're gonna have another real estate meetup June. I believe it's June 25th. We will post, and I will be promoting that as well. So I know last week I said that I was going to have a guest speaker on today, and I do. I came through for you guys. I came through for you guys. She is the best mortgage professional that I know and that you're going to get to know as well. Her name is Adriana Gonzalez. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, while we're going through the show, please feel free to post a comment. And if you guys are watching this on the replay, go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section, and I'll get it to her. Yeah, she can answer all your guys' curiosities and questions. All right. So, anyways, you guys are probably thinking that you want to get to the main, matter at hand. You don't want to just see me on this thing, right? I don't blame you. You've already seen enough of me the last 2 weeks. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Adriana into the studio, and let's start this show off, okay? Hey, Adriana, how you
Hey,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So good to see you on the Real Estate Power Hour with Lance Trezona.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited that you agreed to be on the show. So, anyways, hey, just to say it one more time, thank you for your time, because I know your time is very valuable. I know you've got a lot. I know that you're a busy woman and you've got a lot going on in the world and in your life. And I just want to say again, thank you for taking time out to bless me with your presence on my show, to answer some questions for my viewers, and just to try to add value to whoever's going to be watching this.
Okay, of course. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Nice. And so, anyways, let's just get right into it. So for the viewers out there and that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you currently do.
Okay, well, again, my name is Adriana. Nice meeting everybody. I do home loans, so my focus is in mortgages. I've been doing it for about 14 years. Prior to that, I was in real estate. I was a transaction coordinator. I've been in escrow. I've been in title. I've probably been in any facet of the industry you can imagine throughout the years. And it's really helped me understand every aspect. And I feel that that's where I can bring a little more to the table. But my goal is always to get the buyer the best interest rate possible. So that's my bottom line, the best payment possible for each and every client.
Nice. It sounds like you've been doing real estate for a while. You've been in a little bit of everything, it sounds like. So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, dude, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
See, guys, did I tell you I was going to bring some pro on? And I did. So, how did you first get started into real estate? Like, what sort of piqued your interest in it?
It was through family. My father was a broker. He had quite a few companies in LA County, and we were around real estate since we were 4 years old. So, company parties, always around realtors, always a part of it. So, I mean, it's just been in us since the start. And it's my brother's a broker, my sister's in finance, everybody is involved. So at probably about 1920, I became his assistant and I worked for a title company and kind of just got a feel for it at a very young age. And in 2001, I got my real estate license and never looked back. So it's just a part of who I am
Dude, that's
from the
awesome.
start.
That's awesome. So it completely runs in your family's business. So you saw what the benefits of real estate were early on, and how it could actually change people's lives for the better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know people who've been in the industry for, you know, my whole life, so I won't say how old I am, but my whole life. So, and they're still active. They're still active agents, active brokers, active lenders, and it's hard to do anything else once you get it in you. It's just such an amazing industry. And, buying a home is typically someone's biggest investment. You know, the average person's biggest investment is their home. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to help them with their biggest investment.
Yeah, and so, like, besides helping them, I mean, tell us, like, I know that you've actually got into investing yourself. I know that you've owned more than just one property. So tell us what your experience has been a little bit about that.
Well, I'm more of a firm believer of buy your primary home, live in it for a year or however long, and then you can turn it into a rental when you go to buy your next primary home. And then you're able to come with a minimum down because it's your primary purchase. And then your current primary becomes your investment, and then you get a new primary. And then you could just keep the ball rolling like that. So that's probably the most reasonable way to build home ownership. Unless you've got a ton of cash and a ton of reserves, and you can just come in with the 20% plus more and buy and go that route. But typically, it's one home at a time, step by step, and slow and steady wins the race. You can have multiple homes, and you got to start off right. Go for the units first. Live in one for a year. That's what you did, Lance, right? We got you into units, and you didn't go for the home. You went to the units because it's going to make more sense to the bank that you don't want to live in your duplex. You want to buy maybe a townhome next. And then you stay there for a year plus. And then now you've outgrown your townhome. You want to buy a single family residence next, but a smaller one. And then you buy the bigger one. So, as long as it makes sense to the bank, you could take advantage of coming in with as little as 3% down on your first purchase, 0 down if you're VA, 3.5 if you're FHA, and then you turn that one into an investment and you can buy your new primary as little as 5% down. So it's just a stepping stone process.
No, and it's really funny that not funny that you mentioned it, but it's really good that you mentioned that, because this whole episode is titled, how to build a portfolio with traditional financing, right? Because
Exactly.
I really wanted to gear this towards people that, one, aren't really big into real estate investing, but also they haven't really thought about how they can actually buy their way. I call it buyer hacking their way up to like 5 different properties, right? To where they're
Exactly.
sort of creating some, passive income for themselves, where maybe they don't necessarily need a property management company. Maybe they have them within their own, little area that they can drive to and sort of manage it themselves, right? But I really feel like, and I think you hit the nail on the head, because you said, remember, Lance, when we got you into your units, you didn't want to go into you know, it's funny because I know that you had your license, and I know that you're a broker, a loan officer with the mortgage broker. But
Yes.
like, for me personally, like, I didn't really think like that or know the avenues until me and you connected and started talking, about the strategies and different ways of accomplishing what I wanted to try to do, and my goals, right? And so
Exactly.
so for me, one of the reasons why I've started this whole show is for that, because I run into a lot of, like, just home buyers, like homestead buyers, not really necessarily investors, that don't exactly know all the avenues that they go through. And so for me, I really want to become like a real estate professional that strategizes with these people to give them some sort of different avenues or different options than just like, hey, let's go out and get your 3 bedroom 2 bath house, and then you're screwed because you should have gotten the 4 unit or 3 unit before you even looked at a 3 bedroom 2 bath. And you that could be your kid's college fund. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly. And you always use yourself as the example because you did exactly what you were supposed to do. And you got a 2 for 1, right? You bought a duplex. You it was your sold your property, started fresh, you bought a duplex, and you I was able to use the income of the one that you weren't occupying as rental income to qualify. So you were able to go a little bit higher than you would have on a single family residence where you can't use rental income to qualify. And you got in San Diego at a prime time, and you have a duplex. You've got 2 units. Now you're living in one, but the other one is producing income. So the minute you're ready to take the next step and get that next one, that next property, now that one you're living in becomes an income producing property, and you can use that to qualify. So you're able to use both properties to qualify, and you're in your home and you've got a duplex producing you income. And when you're retired and you have no mortgages, you're living off these rents. And that's the way to be. I mean, it's just, it's that ultimate end goal of, hey, we all need a place to live, right? Rent is forever if you're a tenant. So, but a mortgage ends.
Right. It does. I like that you said that. Rent is forever. Yes. And it's when you said that I bought 2 units, you're right. But I've been
Yes.
kicking myself ever since in the ass because I really should have started out with 4 units. I'm like, damn it, Lance, why didn't you go
Well,
bigger?
it gets more complicated. You took advantage of a government loan for first-time home buyers with 3.5% down, and just be very proud of what you did because what you did was amazing. The minute you get past 2 units with government financing, it gets a lot more tricky. And that's where, just get in, with what makes sense using the littlest amount down. And you were in San Diego. It's not like you bought, in Hemet where maybe it would have made more sense. You found a prime area and got a duplex, and that's what made more sense. I always tell clients, never look back. You did it. So be very proud of yourself. I am. I'm really proud of what you did.
Thank you. And yeah, right now, like it's so mind-boggling to me that I'm having conversations with like my 19-year-old and my 21-year-old and telling them right now, start saving your money and buy your first property. It doesn't even have to be in California. You can go out of state, but just buy something, if you want to get in a little bit of a less expensive market as far as entry points, but it's just I'm having those conversations now because of where I started and our conversation that I had day number one with you about where I wanted to go with the real estate game. You
That's
know,
really great. I mean, I'm a proud mom. My son had his notary at 20 and he had his real estate license at 21. And I really feel, it's continuing, right? Like all he's heard his whole life is real estate and finance. And here he is. He's the youngest member in our family to be licensed. So it's great, when the kids are listening because home ownership is wealth.
right? It really is, and it's funny that you mentioned that too because I always say like you sort of grew up with it. It sounds like your family was there, so you were around it at a young age. But I was never around it at a young age, and I always tell everybody now the buck stops with me because I have to put my family on that different trajectory, that different path, that my previous my parents or my grandparents didn't do, um so you're so right with that, talking to the younger people and getting them up there. And so if any of you are 18 or 20 and you're listening to this, real estate's the way to go. Get going now, guys. Get going now.
They don't teach you that in school. I wish they had a finance class. I would love to teach it to kids.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic for a whole
Yeah.
nother show because I could go off on the school systems, what they should be teaching and what they aren't teaching.
Yeah,
But
definitely finance would be nice.
so if somebody was interested in starting their journey, their real estate journey, what are some of the first steps for success that they can sort of take to make sure they are successful in that transition?
To talk to a lender, to talk to someone in finance, and I definitely recommend if you can get a hold of a broker, they're going to have the best rates available. So there's a difference of walking into a bank, a retail lender, and a broker. There's three of us out there doing the same thing. However, me being with a broker, I can use different outlets. I have different umbrellas. I have banks, several banks that if it's a VA buyer, I've got a bank for my VA buyers. If it's an FHA buyer, I've got a bank for my FHA. If it's conventional, I've got a different bank for conventional. So I'm able to get what best fits the client's needs, what program that's going to be, and then get them the best rate. So you want to talk to a lender. And I'm always going to promote a broker, and it's not just because that's who my license is with, because I've done everything. I've been with a bank, I've been with a retail lender, and it had limits. And I was saying no. And sometimes I was saying no a lot. But my brother, who was a broker, could do everything because he had multiple banks under his umbrella. But with that said, you better know what you're doing. You better really know what you're doing when you step into the broker world. So, um, I say get with someone in finance, preferably a broker, but if you've got someone that you know who's a retail lender or you go to a bank, that's fine. Just talk to somebody because they're going to guide you. And it's just a conversation. Don't feel pressure to do anything. If a client calls me on the phone and they tell me what they want, before I even gather their paperwork, I'm sending them scenarios. I'm sending them based on our phone conversation. I'm going to kind of say, okay, you seem like you're probably going to be FHA, or you're definitely going to be a VA, or you're definitely going to be conventional. And I'm sending them estimates. I'm saying, hey, Lance, thank you for this client, but what's the reality of where they need to be in San Diego? And you're telling me, hey, this is a price point where else it's not San Diego for them. So we kind of work together in the background so I can guide the client, and I give them scenarios. And it's very simple. All a client wants to know is how much do I have to put down, right? And what's my payment? Once they know that and they're comfortable with it, then you can take the next step. Then you can provide your financials, your bank statements, your W-2s, your paycheck stubs, and you give that to your lender, and then the lender breaks it down. You could be comfortable with the payment, and you can be comfortable with everything, but then the next step is to see if you qualify for it. And again, that's where we come in. We did step A, found the program, you like the payment, you're good with the down payment, and now I run the financials. I look at the financials, I break them down, I run the credit, I find out, were there any hardships going on in the credit, where maybe we have to incubate the client. But it's better to know right now, right, Lance? Wouldn't you rather know today than say, oh, I'm going to wait a year, and then a year later you find out you got to wait another year? So it's just get with the lender. They're going to tell you if you qualify now or if you have to incubate and qualify in the future. Sometimes it's about saving money. A buyer might say, well, I don't have sufficient funds, but we make it work. They don't know that they can get a gift from a family member, and there's a family member ready to help them to make home ownership sooner. So a lender is going to give you all your options. We're going to pull all our bag of tricks. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this to make it happen? And that's how a deal gets done, by talking to a lender. And once that's done, then we hand it off to you, right, Lance? And then as a realtor, you're able to put an offer on any property for them because their financing is secure. And that's my advice. Don't wait. Just call someone and find out where you stand. It's only going to help you. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, and what you said was great, because I know, like, when I talk to people first, my first thing to tell them is, "Hey, do you have a lender? If not, I have one that I work with that I can refer you to." But also I tell them, "Hey, another first step is, if you got crappy credit, get your credit straight, because that's gonna matter. They're gonna pull it, and you don't want to be there with a 350 credit score. You know what I mean?" So
I could do 500, but that's as low as I go. It comes at a price. Don't get too excited.
yeah. So I always tell them to make sure that they have, like, their credit score is good, and there's a few other things, but I'll let you talk. What are the don'ts? What shouldn't they do when they're trying to do the steps? Like, I know like buying a car is one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times people's home is their car. You know, they've got a $1,200 payment, and that's equivalent to 160,000 in purchasing power, and that knocks you out. You know, so it's we're going to take your income and we're going to give you your gross income. So it's what you make on the top. And then we're going to look at your debt and we're going to minus your debt and we're going to work with whatever's left over. So getting into substantial debt is probably the biggest deal killer, you know. So it is, what can you do to work on your debt? And sometimes, you know, a client might have 100,000 to put down, and in the end, I'm using 33,000 for the purchase, and they wanted to put it all down on their home, but it made more sense to wipe out the debt. So they're in their home, debt free. You know, for every 10,000 you go up or down on your mortgage is about $60. But if you've got a $10,000 credit card, that could be a $500 payment. So it's debt. But again, if you've got the money, we can tell you what to do to get rid of the debt. You won't know until you talk to a professional. So you might think you don't have it going on when you do, when we start moving money around to make it work. So most definitely, the debt is probably the number one deal killer, or not paying your debt on time and having more, you know, having lates on your credit. That can really not help you. Getting new debt when you know, when you're in the middle of finding a home. You know, the first thing the lender should say is, you do not buy anything until we close escrow. Don't even do an inquiry. I know you want to buy bedroom furniture, but don't do anything. Staying within your job, you know, keeping your hours up. Going part-time from full-time could be a deal killer. So, you know, it's very common sense stuff. When you're talking to a client and you're telling them what not to do, it's not like you're asking for the world. It's very common sense. So I definitely say, you know, keeping the job. Now, you can have job changes, especially if it's for the better. I'm able to close the deal without a first paycheck stub on some financing, as long as I have an offer letter and reserves. You'd be surprised what we can do as long as the communication is always 100%. And sometimes clients get scared to tell their lender, but it's all going to come out. I mean, financing, everything is verified. So the things you can do is, you know, keep your credit in line. Another great thing you can do to keep your FICO scores up is always keep your debt under 30%. So I work with a lot of people who are, you know, I've never been late on my payment, but I don't understand why my credit is low. Well, you've got 5 credit cards all maxed out. Get them all under 30%, and that's going to boost your FICO score up. So there's so many little tricks you can do to get there. The biggest problem that I have to say in the county we live in, we're in California, right, Lance? It's not pretty, you know. It's almost like you need 5 people to buy. It feels like. It's hard. It's hard finding a home. So it's definitely, you know, people. I work with a lot of people who get discouraged because they can't find a home because of the price point of what they qualify for. But then I've got loans where, you know, maybe a wife doesn't work, or a wife does work, but it's part-time and I can't use her, but a parent's willing to co-sign. And then there's home ownership when you bring a co-signer in. So just, if you can afford the payment and we can make it work, go for it if it makes sense for the client. But definitely, your credit is key. Your income is key. Keeping your job is key. Not getting into a ton of debt is key. Do you want your home, or do you want your $1,200 car payment? It's a decision. You know, some people want the car and they'll continue to rent. So, you know, it's the client's motivation. That's the one thing that I learned. I always tell my agents, we can want it as bad for the client because we know the beauty of home ownership and what it's going to do, but the client has to be motivated to purchase and want it and be okay with it.
You know, I'm going to touch back on something you said. You're like, you know, come and talk to your lender. Your lender's eventually going to know everything. And I think a lot of people get a little nervous reaching out to a lender or a mortgage professional, only because they might not have the best credit. They might have a bankruptcy on their, file, or they might not just have a lot of reserves or whatever. But I'm like, in order to get in order to get to where you want to get to, you need to know all the information up front. And if you're a little nervous or scared, don't be, because I'm very open about this. I've gone through a bankruptcy. I've gotten divorced. I mean, my God, my credit took a shit to 475. You know what I mean? But I'm like, you build it back up. I mean, everybody goes through a tough time, but I needed to know where I stood. So, it just, for me, getting to somebody like Adriana to say, hey, Lance, here's the big picture. These are the steps you need to take. And then it sets me off on my way to start fixing those little things here and there, to where I'm able to maybe, start really seriously looking in like 8 months. A lot of people, and this is where I see the mistake happening, is they go straight to the real estate agent or the real estate professional first, and they're trying to find a property, but they don't know what they can spend. So you're actually, I hate to say it, you're actually wasting your time, and you're wasting the real estate professional's time at this simultaneously, because you don't have any, for a better lack of word, ammunition to put into the gun and start shooting at the houses you want to target. So
Yeah. Well,
so
I don't know about anybody, but I only want to look at what I can buy. So,
right.
and you're not going to know your price point until you talk to a lender. And there's no worse feeling of looking for 10 homes and falling in love with half of them, and you can't put an offer on any of them because you don't qualify. And then you're just completely turned off. So, yeah, I mean, why would you do that to yourself? I mean, most agents will be like, I'm not even putting you in my car until I see what you qualify for. But we live in a world where you can walk into any open house and look at anything. But why would you even do that if you don't know if you can buy it or not? And even if you're just testing the waters, test the waters on what you qualify for, not on what you don't qualify for, or don't know if you qualify for it. You're not committed to buy anything because you walk in a home. But I would think you want to know, hey, if I want to put an offer, I can.
Exactly. And so don't be afraid to reach out, people. Don't be afraid. That's the first step. And we all go through it, and you're going to have to go through it sooner or later. You might as well just knock it out and know where you stand at. So, Adrian, I know you touched on a little bit of this before, but just to reiterate, because I want to go into the next question, can you just go ahead and recap on what exactly a mortgage broker is?
Okay, so I came from the retail world where I had one bank, and I love them. They were great. They were accommodating, great service. The issue that I was running into in particular was the interest rates not being the best, because when you have, a huge company, the costs are higher, and it is what it is. And the bottom line is the client pays for everything with the interest rate that they're given. I mean, this is real talk. What when you take a listing and you sell your house, you know what you're paying. It's all there in front of you. When you're a buyer, you're not paying for land. So there is a great opportunity. The seller's paying for his service. You get a free service in the form of commission. But in the retail world, I'm looking at the rates, and it got to the point where it wasn't making sense to me. So, after being in the industry, it's kind of like the light bulbs went off, like, okay, you know what's going on here? This is my compensation, but why is the rate still so much higher? It's because they have their compensation also built in, but I'm not seeing it. I work for my company, and I'm not seeing what they're making on the back end. And if I need help, a credit union is beating me, I have to ask for an exception. Or if I know like a loan makes sense, and they're giving me a harder time because they're more strict, because they're being more strict because it's their portfolio, they're the ones doing it, then that also became an issue. So for me, when you go with a broker and I look at the rate sheet, it's a wholesale rate sheet, if that makes sense. I'm seeing the bottom line, and I can adjust to my client. So it's pretty much being able to give a really good discount, giving my client a better interest rate, losing the fluff. The fluff is gone, but my client doesn't care. They care about the rate that I'm giving them. And also the biggest issue I was having was my VAs were there, my FHAs there, my conventionals were there, all under one umbrella. As a broker, I've got my banks that have better rates for VA clients and have better rates for FHA and have better rates for conventional, and they're three separate banks. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my FHA buyer and I'm putting them with one bank that I'm approved with, then my VA buyer and I'm putting them with another bank, and my conventional buyer and putting them with another bank. And these are reputable companies. I work with great companies. My favorite is Rocket Mortgage. All my conventional goes to Rocket. I work with SunWest. They're in Orange County. All my FHA goes to SunWest because they're giving my client the best pricing. And we're talking a difference of 0.25%. And this is a game changer for a client. It's me saying, hey, you don't qualify for 650,000, you qualify for 600. 1/4 to 0.5% on the interest rate is giving a client a higher payment, or they're qualifying for less. I want to let them have the best advantage in this difficult market of being in Riverside County, LA County, San Diego County. So for me, that 1/4% to 0.5% is crucial for my client. So that's the difference with a broker. We're not stuck with one bank, and we can give better pricing and use different banks.
Dude, that's awesome. That's
It
awesome.
is. It is a lot more work, but
Yeah.
but it's worth it. I mean, you talk to a lender and they're pulling their hair out dealing with their one bank, and I'm dealing with 6 different banks on 6 different files with 6 different systems. It is not easy, but the benefit is just there. I can't go back. I'll never go back.
So I know that you mentioned a little bit about the traditional bank versus the mortgage banks, but like, would you ever put I know you have your specific banks and you named them, but would you ever have worked with a Wells Fargo or a Chase or something like that? Or is that completely off the table?
No, no, I mean, you don't even need to be licensed to go work at a Wells or a Chase. I don't understand that. We all have our licenses. We take our classes every year. We pay our dues, and you walk into, a bank, and they have employees, and they're from 9 to 5, and they're not working on the weekends. And that's that's a whole other subject. But you got to keep in mind, home loans is just a little bit of what they do, right? Their money market, car loans, credit card loans, your savings is in there, your checking is in there. So mortgages is just something they do. So what comes with that is called overlays. So when you get a loan, let's say a government loan, FHA is FHA. It's all across the board. Their guidelines are their guidelines. But a bank who does FHA might cut what you qualify down. When I was telling you earlier, I could do a FICO for 500. It's ugly, but I can do it. They might be at 640. So someone walks in to a bank and they've got a 620 FICO or 600, and they're being told no, and they're going home and they're thinking they can't buy. Where if they would have called a broker or a retail lender, a direct lender, they 100% can buy. So, so there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference because I don't want to say they cherry pick, but they're more conservative because it's just a niche. They do home loans, but that's just a little bit of what they do. They have so many other outlets
So it's
where we only do home loans. So
So it sounds like an end buyer, a homestead buyer would definitely benefit from going to somebody like a mortgage broker such as yourself, or you said a direct lender. Is that
exactly. I definitely think, it's going to benefit a first time home buyer, someone who doesn't have that A+ credit or putting that big chunk down, is definitely going to benefit talking to a direct lender or a broker. Of course,
nice?
the brokers are going to be the best.
Right. Well, and I'm biased because I use you and I have a relationship with you,
Well, you
and
should be biased because that interest rate I gave you.
yeah. But like, so for other people, because we've already talked about like, the benefits of using a mortgage broker and what they are, but are all mortgage brokers created equal? Like would would somebody come to Adriana and somebody go to Sam Smith from a different mortgage broker, and are they going to get the same service, same kind of quality of work, or is it?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, everybody works different, so if I'm putting it through a bank and B is putting it through the bank, it's the same system. However, if Sam Smith is compensation plan is 2.5% and I'm at 1.25, what that means is I'm basically giving a point and a quarter back to the client in the form of a credit or a better rate. That's where we all differ. We all differ of what we charge. So, and this is real talk. There's people that will not like me because they want to make their 2.5, their 2.75. They feel that that's their value and that's what they want to charge. Where I'm like, I get to sit at home and just talk on the phone. I'm not out pounding the pavement. I don't have this huge overhead. Why wouldn't I give it back to the client? It's just a different mindset. And when I changed my mindset and I started discounting my pricing, I went from doing 30 deals a year to 80 deals a year because of word of mouth. So, some people say, work smarter, not harder. So they charge more. Well, I rather work harder and give the difference to the client. So that's it. It's just, that's my business motto. That's where I stand. That's what separates me, I feel, for the majority of the lenders out there. And I'm not taking anything away from them, but that's just the difference between us.
Boom, and that's why I keep coming back to you.
I mean, it's as simple as that. It doesn't get any more complicated.
No, you get a lot of repeat business, I bet too, right? Like for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Because, why people don't understand why is this rate so much better? Because I'm making less. It's that simple.
Nice. Oh, all right. So I know the title of this show is How to Use Traditional Financing to Build Your Portfolio. So can you tell us like what kind of loan products can help build a portfolio for a traditional buyer that might not just want to do the real estate investment like I do, but maybe want to get like two to four properties within like maybe 8 to 10 years? How are they able to do that?
Well, we first see where you stand. Are you a conventional first-time home buyer? Conventional is a great product, but you better have the FICO score and you better have the income, and you can go as little as 3% down and go conventional. In reality, you could go conventional and put less down on FHA, where FHA is a government program, and people think that that's the least you put down, but they require 3.5%. Both programs, if you don't need anything, if you get gifted, you don't have to come in with anything down. So it can really get creative. So, but I have to see where you stand. I have to look at the credit and I have to look at the income to guide a client to be like, you know what, you can go conventional and or FHA. When a client can go both, that's a beautiful thing. Right now, what I'm seeing is I've got a lot of conventional clients with 5% down, but I'm still advising them to go FHA because the interest rate is almost up to a point better on any depending day. So I'm always going to guide the client according to how much options do they have? Can they do conventional and FHA? Can they only do FHA? So when you have a client whose FICO score I say is below 720, that's a game changer where you really feel the hit conventional to FHA. And then, you're 100% FHA because FHA is very forgiving. You come in with 3.5% down. It can be your money or it can be a gift. You can go as low, to have the best rate, you want about a 620 to 640 to get the best rate, but you could still even go lower than that, which is fine. So they're more forgiving. And then on top of that, you qualify for more. They allow you to have more debt. You have more purchasing power. Conventional is more conservative. So you might be stuck at 650 conventional, but you can go to 700 FHA. with the same payment, if not maybe a little bit better. So FHA makes more sense. So, but there's caveats to these. When you get an FHA loan, which is a government loan, this is for first time home buyers. So once you get that FHA, that's why I tell a client, go for it. If you can get those units and utilize FHA, go for it. Because even if you refinance out of an FHA loan, it's very difficult to go FHA again. So you have to relocate to have more than one FHA loan, relocate 100 miles away, or a divorce sale. Let's say when you went through your divorce, you said, hey, I can afford this home and I'm going to keep it, and I have my FHA loan, and the courts say, all right, Lance, this is your loan, and your ex comes to me and says, hey, I want to buy, but I can't buy FHA because I'm already have an FHA loan. The minute I have the divorce decree that you're responsible for the loan and you acquired in the divorce, then the wife or the ex can go FHA all day long. Gets really tricky when you can get back into FHA again. So if you're going to utilize FHA and you want to get units and not have to put 25% down, go for it. Even if you don't, even if it's kind of like an investment standpoint, you only have to live there for a year, and then you can go get your home or go get your townhome and keep it moving. With conventional, you can go 3% down, and then you can turn around and buy 5% down and keep it rolling. It just has to make sense. And you have to qualify. It all has to fall in line. That's where you want to talk to a lender, because we can guide you. And we can even, how many times have we game plan for your next purchase, Lance? Like, this is where you need to be. Wait a minute. What happened? You didn't have overtime this month. Get back on your overtime if you want to make this work. So, I mean, you have a real talk with your lender so you can keep it rolling. For me, the best product is VA. If you can buy, if you can use your VA loan, you can keep using it. It doesn't have that restriction that FHA has. If you have a VA loan and you turn it into a conventional loan, your VA is freed up again. Your entitlement's good to go. You can 100% go VA again. And then you could do it again. Then you turn that VA loan into a conventional loan. Guess what? Now you can use your VA 100%. There's a funding fee. It's could be up to 3.6% that's financed, which you're not coming out of pocket with it. How beautiful is that? It's way better than 20% down, 15% down, 10% down. So it's getting with a lender, knowing what products you qualify, and utilizing those products to your advantage.
Yes, and so I know for me, like I've always was under the impression, like I knew the VA I could reuse. I was under the impression that you could refinance out of the FHA and then jump back into another FHA as long as you were building, like going from a 2-1 to a 3-2 to a 4-2 or maybe a 5-3.
The good
But
old days. You used to be able to do that, but too many people were buying investments using FHAs, and FHA pulled the plug. Yeah, I mean, you can have a growing family, and you can do it, but they want a birth certificate. They want, you better be moving up. It can't be your neighbor's house. You can't buy the house next door that's like for like. The overlays that are attached to it, if you fit the mold, great, but it's hard to fit the mold, if that makes sense. Now, so many people are working from home right now, right? So many people can live anywhere and work. That's a golden opportunity. So if you have a home in San Diego and you say, you know what, I want to go 100 miles plus away out of state, then you 100% can go FHA again and have another FHA loan. But it's all going to have to be verified. It's all going to have to be backed up. If we get the verification of employment and it says Lance needs to be reporting to San Diego half the time, and you're saying, well, I want to use my FHA and go move to, Texas, it's not going to fly. It needs to be that you're 100% you can work from home. So it used to be very easy that you could stay within the same county as long as that you were upsizing or downsizing. Let's say all the kids left and your home was too big, and you had a FHA loan, and you get a lesser home. But that all changed a few years ago, and it makes it a lot more difficult to take advantage of that. But for 1.5% more, you can get a conventional 5% down. People think like, I got to put so much down for my second home. As long as it's your primary, you'll be surprised how beautiful a conventional loan is, where instead of 3.5, you go 5%, and you keep your FHA loan. So again, you want to get together with your lender so they can see if you fit the mold or not. Another way you can fit the mold is if I have a client who says, "Why I co-signed for someone and I helped a family member out." And this happens a lot, where I get a co-signer who says, "Hey, I want to buy." And I'm like, "Well, you can buy, but as you've got to wait a year." So there's a lot of people out there that helped a family member out and co-signed and did not occupy an FHA loan. You absolutely can use an FHA loan and buy for yourself. You just have to wait a year, and you better prove that you're the co-borrower, not the main borrower, and that the main borrower made all the payments.
Nice. And so
Yeah.
I know me and you talk because because you have to put up with my wacky ideas and trying to cheat the system kind of mentality here.
Don't say cheat in front of a lender.
But I know, like I was telling you, like I was like, well, what if my mom moves in, or what if my dad moves into the house and I have to take care of an elderly parent? Like, what can I do then? Can't I use the FHA loan to buy more units? Like, so
Well, you can buy one for them 100 miles away.
yeah. Yeah. So I know I have been trying to find loopholes for a minute, but
And you
I
just
was
needed to save a 1.5 more percent.
yeah, right. But I know that I was fortunate by joining up with the Coast Guard, so I do have a VA loan that I plan
Yeah.
on using over and over and over and over again. So
Yeah, that's great. I mean, if you're a vet, and vets don't know, they think like, I can only buy a home one time, and that's it for me. And it's not. The minute you refinance, and when you hear it needs to be paid off, it doesn't need to be paid off. Paid off means it can mean paid off by selling, or it can mean paid off by paying it off, or it can mean paid off by refinancing into a conventional product and then freeing your VA up again. And if you can do that, why wouldn't you use it again? Zero down, VA, no private mortgage insurance. I mean, it's just the best loan out there. We just need to get the sellers to accept it. That's sometimes the hard part, because they get scared. But it's just such a beautiful loan, and you can have multiple VA loans, but it's hard to touch on that when you're LA County. So if you have a VA loan, more or less, it's about 726,200 that is available. You can go higher, but let's just use that number. And you buy a property for 300,000. Well, now you have 426,200 that you did not use. I might be 1,000 off with my math. I'm sorry. So you live in it for a year. And when the year is over, if you can go find a property for the difference, you can use a VA again, and you can have two VA loans simultaneously, as long as you stay under that bottom line. It's beautiful, but it's very hard. I could say this, and someone listening who's in San Diego is like, "What good did that just do me? I'm in San Diego." But maybe someone's in Texas or Arizona and is a VA. They definitely could take advantage of it, or they
well,
find like a little condo
well,
and do it.
I disagree with you, because if somebody was in San Diego and they were listening to you right now, they'd be like, "Cool, I'll refinance out this VA loan in a year and get
Exactly,
the full
exactly.
entitlement back."
Yeah, yeah, that's different. This is like, some people say, "Well, how can I have multiple?"
Yeah.
So you can have two. It's gotta be split, which makes it harder. But yeah, 100%. You definitely can just refinance it, and you're good to go with your entitlement. The funding fee's a little bit higher, but who cares? It makes sense.
So if you're living in the Midwest, everybody, you can use that VA
Go find
loan
a broker out there, because I'm
for
not.
for multiple multiple properties.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
That's
It can
amazing.
be done.
Yeah, so like I know that you were mentioning the 5%. So like if somebody isn't a vet and they use their FHA loan and let's say they were like, "Cool, I've been in here for a year," and they wanted to maybe buy another property, right? Like start a single family or even a condo or townhome like you were suggesting.
Yeah.
What is the next step that they would take? Would it be the 5%? Is there any other loan like um
Well, I mean, like with you, when we were doing your loan, conventional was the only option, but then your VA pulled through. So now conventional is gone. Now you're going to use VA. But yeah, for the most part, it's conventional. You know, conventional is gonna be the next step once you have a home that you own. So keep in mind these government loans are for one home. It's a first time home buyer product. So, you know, it's kind of like maybe we, even if we get you out of FHA to get out of the mortgage insurance or to get a better interest rate, or maybe refinance to set you up and we cash out some money for your next purchase. I mean, the sky's the limit when you talk to a lender and a lender setting you up for a future investment. They're going to tell you exactly what you need to do. But typically you got in, you got in your units, right, Lance, with 3.5% down. And let's say the VA didn't exist, you save your 5%. Now your units become both rentals or using double income to qualify to knock out the negative of the home, if that makes sense, because there's still a mortgage on it. And then you see what you qualify for, and then you buy your home with 5% down.
And when you say just so everybody can understand when you mean negative, you're talking about debt to income ratio, what my debt would be to my income and using the rental to knock that out.
Exactly. So, you know, if you've got a mortgage, if you've got a home and your mortgage is 3,500 and you want to go buy the next home, and let's keep it single family residence right now just to kind of simplify
Mhm.
it. That departing primary residence, it's your primary, but you're going to depart it and you're going to go to a new primary with 5% down. If if let's say the mortgage is 3,000, but the rent is 3,000, well, I'm going to hit you with a vacancy factor. I'm going to hit you with a 25%. So, but you're not getting hit with a full mortgage. So it's got to make sense that you've got to have the income to make it work. So a lot of people, you know, will have to sell to get their next step up, right? They got to move money. But if you meet with your lender and you really figure it out and you do it like, what do I buy so I can keep it? You know, that's what I'm saying. Maybe it is units when you want a home. Maybe it's a condo when you wanted a home. And the reason why you're doing it is because this mortgage is going to be a debt, but you're going to be able to use the rental income that you get from it to qualify or help offset the mortgage, if that makes sense. Sometimes it's hard to be 100% in a positive if only a year has gone by and you're buying your next property. You know, that takes time. That loan amount's got to go down.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely understand that. And I mean that is the name of the game, trying to acquire, well, for me it's the name of the game, trying to acquire as many properties as fast as possible, right? I want to hit my mark. But my goal staying in house hacking this duplex was only to be a year. But then I realized, I'm like, okay, great. I need to really come up with a better plan to where I want to jump to next, because I don't want to move 100 miles away. I don't want to move to the Midwest. I want to stay here in lovely San Diego County area. So, now I'm looking at other options of what I could actually use my VA loan for too. But for me, I'm looking at 0% coming in. I don't want to have to put any money out of my pocket. So that's a benefit for me. But if I didn't have the luxury of having that VA loan, I would definitely be like squirreling away the 5% right now. And when I move, like when Adriana was talking about breaking even with the 3,000, if your mortgage is 3,000 and you were collecting 3,000 of rent, you break even, but she's going to add in a vacancy factor. And for those who don't know, vacancy factor, meaning you couldn't, it's that time period where you don't have a renter in there paying your rent. So that's what the vacancy factor is. So for me personally, like when I move from my unit and I'm renting both out, my rents will be more than my mortgage will. So I'll probably be able to cover that vacancy factor plus the mortgage payment as well. So I'm not looking at taking a hit. I'm hoping that it would add to my income instead of taking away, if that makes any sense.
But definitely, but you did what you were supposed to do to be where you wanna be. You looked at it as an investor standpoint. So,
Yes.
when you're an investor, there's no emotion involved in the property. It's I'm buying something that is gonna make me money down the line. So, that's where sometimes there's a disconnect. If you're a family man and you've got kids, or a couple, a woman and a man, or a single mom or a single dad, and you've got kids and areas important, it's hard. It's almost like, well, I want to get my home or I want to get a better home. So you definitely have to have that investor mindset where sometimes you're settling, you're not getting what you want, but you're looking for the future. You're looking for financial freedom. And some people don't. They do not want units, and they do not want to live with the tenant next door, and they're next door to their tenant. Um, then then that's where you're just okay. Then you're just a buyer. But when you want to do what you want to do, Lance, it's you've got that mindset. You did exactly what you were supposed to do to set yourself up that you're not in the negative. You bought units. So now when you go to buy, you're not going to be in the negative in your mortgage. You might even be in a little bit of a positive and have positive income flow, which you can use to qualify. So, but it was done because we game plan together. That's the importance of talking to a lender, because they're going to say, well, if you buy this, but you want to buy again, you're 200,000 under the price point. You're going to have to qualify for the difference of the payment, and we might have an issue. Now, if you've got a cosigner, we're on. Like so you got to do this to qualify. So it's just so much brainstorming, and numbers. I love numbers. That's why I love doing finance. Numbers don't lie. It is what it is. It's just an honest conversation with your client. That's why don't be afraid to ever talk to a lender. It's just all numbers.
Yes, I like that. And there's two things I want to bring up two things. One of them you mentioned, it's a term you mentioned, gifted. You said it a few times. Can you explain what gifted means? Like when you're like you might not even need to come with any money out of your pocket if it was gifted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's so many people out there that family wants to help. Parents want to help. People help. I mean, I didn't get that, but but it exists. So if you got you know someone buying and they're like, hey, my mom and dad want to give me 30,000 to buy, and I've got 10, and not even saying that you need that full amount. um, I could say, well, then you can keep your 10 and take that 30, and you're a homeowner, or may and or keep it for the next purchase. Let's just use what we have to use and don't spend it and keep it, because the minute you start, owning multiple properties, the bank wants to see that you've got reserves on your payment. So that when you go buy your next property, Lance, they're going to also want to see anywhere from 2 to 6 months reserves on the departing residents. So if you got people who are going to gift you money and you don't have to use yours that you can save for the future, why wouldn't you? And you'll be surprised how many people have great parents, an aunt, an uncle, that, hey, I'll help. I'll give you more. I'll give you money to put down on your purchase, and that is a gift. So a gift is allowed. You can 100% come in with nothing in reality if you get a gift from a family member to purchase. And there's other ways around it where it can come from different places. I don't want to get too deep into it, but the majority is it's a family member who gifts the funds to close. The down payment and closing costs are a portion of some or the other. It doesn't matter. We can apply it to the bottom line.
nice. And then I know my next question. was this, because I spout off a lot on social media now. I don't really care what I say anymore. I'm just tossing some shit out
You're Joe
there.
Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I got his haircut too, by the way. It's
Are you
it's
trying to be an influencer?
I'm just trying to look for private money lenders that might want to earn some interest on their money and get some projects going underway. But you were mentioning interest rates, and I always tell everybody right now, especially right now in this market, I'm like, don't worry about interest rates so much. I said, if you see the property and you're able to buy it, because you can always refinance out later. A lot of people right now are stuck. They're afraid to go out and purchase a property because they're waiting. They're waiting for the interest rate to get back down to like 2 point some percent or 3% or some crazy idea like this. And I'm like, while you're waiting, prices are going up. You know
While
what I
you're
mean?
waiting, you're losing.
You're losing. You're losing. While you're waiting for that interest rate to be at your magic number, whatever it is, you're losing out. And so I'm just curious from a lender standpoint, because I know that you're saying I get you an interest rate, get you interest rate. What is your view on that?
I have the same mindset as you. Well, number one, if you can afford it and it makes sense, you right now have no problem giving all the money away to a landlord, right? So you're giving it all away. There's no benefit. You're paying a mortgage. Well, great. Right now you're paying your landlords 3.5%, but you're trying to chase 3.5%. There's no point of it. If you can afford it, why wouldn't you do it? Because number one, that interest is a tax deduction, right? So there's a benefit right there. I had some people complaining, like, I didn't even get a tax benefit because their rate was so low. It's like, well, you got a 2%. You're not going to see a huge write-off when you go to file your interest on your taxes. So you've got the benefit of it being a tax deduction. And I know when I was giving 2% and 2.25%, which was beautiful, those buyers were having to compete with 40 other people and writing crazy offers and waiving their appraisal, ready to come out 20,000, 40,000, 80,000 over asking. And if the bank didn't value it, you were on the hook for it. So, I mean, that market to me was worse for a first time home buyer than this market. And it's still ultra competitive. So, it is what it is. But I'll tell you, you can never control the interest rate when you buy. When you're ready to buy, the market is what the market is, right? It is what it is. But what you can control is once you own a home, you could always refinance down the line. And if you can't refinance, that means you have the best interest rate available, the one that you didn't want. So I've never not refinanced a client multiple times. And the beauty with an FHA loan and a VA loan is you can do what is called an FHA streamline or a VA Earl, where you don't need an appraisal. You don't need your paycheck stubs. It's just a streamlined process where as long as you're saving 0.5%, you can do it. So if you have a decline of income or you went full time to part time, it does not matter. You can streamline that rate to a lower rate and you can do it every 6 to 7 months as long as you're saving 0.5%. So that rate should eventually get lower. It always has. I don't know the time. I don't have a crystal ball. I wouldn't be talking to you if I knew where the market was going, because I'd be rich. Like, I don't know. But what I do know is they go down. It happens. So, I'll talk to a client right now and I'm quoting them interest rate, and I'll be like, hey, the good news is, first of all, you can buy down the interest rate temporarily to save, to take the hit off of it. But I do projections. Hey, if I can save you a point in the next 2 years, you're going to save $500, and if you can afford this payment now, maybe it'll be $500 less within a couple years. And then I tell them, don't quote me on this. I don't put it in writing. It's just, but this is what I've done for 14 years. I've never not dropped someone's interest rate if I could save them 0.5%. And that's kind of my rule of thumb, 0.5%.
Dude, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
You dropping some good information there. People
yeah.
are loving this.
Yeah, it should be a temporary hit, and what goes up, will come down, maybe, next elections, November of next year.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Eh,
still got we're still hurting a bit.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I've been
We'll
I've
see.
been wait I've been waiting for some change for a minute, and there's been no change. So I'm just like, yeah, people don't wait. Don't wait.
Yeah, I don't rate. If you can't, if you don't qualify and it doesn't make sense, that's separate. There's nothing you can do about it. It it breaks my heart how many times I have to say no because of the area that we live in, right? But if you do qualify, why wouldn't you? It it's I think the spread on average, your payment is $700 more than what you want it to be. However, you know, are you going to have to offer 80,000 over asking, because it was brutal when the rates were low for buyers. It was brutal.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I would you brought up something about the buyers, like that when you come up with a buyer that can't qualify, is it because they're in a certain situation, or maybe it's because they just didn't have like a W-2 job, or is it just many different reasons? Like, I'm just curious.
Many different reasons. What's going to stop you from buying is, debt. That's number one. Too much debt for what you make. Um, and mostly is just, unfortunately for me, the counties that I work. It's the income that you need to qualify. It's definitely, sometimes it feels in certain areas that it needs to be a four income household, make home ownership a reality. We are in California. You're in San Diego County. If rent is going for 4,000, what is a mortgage going for?
Dude, it's mind blowing. It's
Yeah,
mind
right,
blowing. And
right.
like you said it, like I need to have my two kids working to add to to pay for the mortgage if I was.
Everybody needs to get a job. I know you're only 12 years old.
Right, exactly, exactly. You better start bringing home some bacon quick, kids. But
Exactly.
it's insane. Like, when you look at what, like, I was just having this conversation, I believe yesterday at the real estate meetup, and when you look at the median home price in just San Diego County, median home price is about 950K. Like 950 freaking K, that's like at least a $5,000 mortgage payment, right? Like, I'm just like,
A mortgage payment of 5,200 on a VA is about maybe 760,
dude.
780. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry, everybody. Everyone just said click.
But it blows your mind, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's why, like, I'm a big advocate. I'm a big advocate for buying units, or even, like, just if you got a house and you're single, or you're dating, rent the rooms out just to sort of supplement the
Oh, yeah.
the income.
Absolutely. Border
Make
income. As long
Yeah,
as you're living there and it's your primary for a year, they don't care who moves in with you. It's fine. Get the help. It, it's the world we live in. There's nothing wrong. It's more common. Families living together, especially if you're out in this direction. Do it. Make it work, because rents are skyrocketing. The only time that I will tell someone, okay, you got me, is when someone says, "Well, my rent's only 500 because I live with family." And then I say, "Well, why don't you pretend you have that $3,500 payment? Why don't you have 200,000 in the bank right now? Pretend you've got that mortgage and put it away." And that's the best advice that I give to someone where they've got it so good, where they're not going to jump into home ownership. So even then, I'm trying to, help them down the line. Like, it's almost like, if you're gonna spend it and blow it anyways, you might as well have that higher payment and have that investment. You know what I mean? Like,
get
pull
something
the
for your
trigger,
money. Yeah.
get something. And when it's your home, you'll be surprised that you're happy to be home, and the money that you save, that you blow when you're renting, because you can.
Yeah.
I find a lot of money when I look at bank statements, a lot. Like, wow, you spent 500 at Starbucks this month. I will buy you, I will buy you a coffee maker as your housewarming gift. You'll be surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything that I
Oh,
think that we gave a good show. I think that you have been more than informative and gave a wealth of knowledge to anybody who's going to be looking at this in the future or watched it today. And I know I am very grateful that you decided to come on this show, and you just provided so much value to my audience, whoever they may be. Um,
I hope so. They'll
yeah,
be like,
and
"That lady talked a lot."
no, I mean seriously, like, like I said, not everybody out there is as passionate about real estate as myself or you or Sean or Z who's been commenting, but like there are a lot of people out there that might be interested in just doing one or two or three, and how can they do that without, having to look at a creative financial structure or try to cold call people up for seller, direct to seller for seller financing or, trying to take over a subject to mortgage, so it's great for people who are just like, hey, I just want to get three properties, maybe use them as piggy banks for my retirement. When that day comes, I can cash out on the equity and travel the world, or whatever they want to do, So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this has been a
I'm your
whole
girl for that. I'm your traditional
yeah,
lender.
yeah. So I think this has been a really well-rounded show for, one, information, and two, hopefully getting people to understand that, hey, reaching out to a lender and knowing where I stand isn't going to be a scary situation.
It's not. I'm just a woman, a mom, you know, and I'm just someone who wants to help. There's just call me, call somebody and see where you stand. We're coming from a good place. We want to help you, and that's our goal. Our goal is to get you into home ownership, to get your primary home because again, whose mortgage are you going to pay? It should be your mortgage. Pay your mortgage. Stop paying your landlords.
Unless
You
you're
know,
my tenant, then keep on
unless you're living in Lance's unit.
then please stay. Anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, and I hope everybody got some value out of today. So
I
I'm
hope
gonna
so too.
I'm gonna end the broadcast, but don't go
All
anywhere,
right.
Adriana.
All
All
right.
right, guys. Thanks a lot, and I will talk to you guys next Monday. Yes.